Yo, what's happening, world? Name's Raheem Flowers, and I could not keep silent about this. That video in regards to Tariq Nasheed approaching Tommy Sotomayor. Now, both of these two are prevalent figures within this so-called black sector of YouTube. And the interesting thing is, they both encountered each other. How do you ask? Well, apparently Tommy had an interview with DJ Vlad, VladTV, and he put that in his captions on one of his most recent Instagrams. Now I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole because I want to start from greatest to least. Let's start with you, Mr. Vladimir, the Russian Jew who gained clout off of black dysfunction and just pure fuckery altogether. Now, Vlad, he swore to himself, he swore tooth and nail that this had not been premeditated and this was all whimsical, and Tariq just did this on his own accord, and Tariq just decided to give him that Coon Train Award, and Vlad was oblivious to this even being an event that they had planned out. Now, if that were true, then why was it that they were still rolling the tape? Why was it still recorded? Vlad should have had enough respect to tell Tariq just to get out. Just at the moment he even tried to pull his antics by saying, "Crispy, take your award, Crispy, take your award, Crispy. Here's a Coon Train Award. I gotta give it to you in person, Crispy." When he did that shit and that bullshit transpired, Tariq should have immediately cut the camera off and just told Tariq to get out, at least until they were finished with their interview. If Tariq felt like he needed to say what he had to say to Tommy, fine. And that part would be beyond Vlad's jurisdiction. But when you are recording, he's recording within your premise, within your territory. Tariq doesn't have the right to do that when you guys are trying to conduct an interview. But Vlad, knowing you are notorious for being an instigating motherfucker. You've done it with rappers. You always want to ask Lord Jamar about his take on gay rights and homosexuality, and even Umar. Even with that video that you made with Umar, you stirred some shit up with him, and which is why Umar called you a fuckboy and he don't want to mess with you and do any videos. And ain't that some shit? So Vlad, you can try to play with your buddy Charlemagne and say that I don't try to instigate, just like how Charlemagne does the same thing. You guys are two peas in the same pod. You can sit here and play like you're oblivious and this is just, all these events are just happening just randomly and it's just all coincidence, right? Let you tell it. I mean, all these years of you coming out with content, you will always have something to stir up because, Vlad, you know best that controversy sells throughout society. So you decided to roll that footage of Tariq doing that and not even cut the video. And let's get to Tariq now. Mr. Tariq Nasheed, Mr. Hidden Colors, Mr. Melanoid Nation, Mr. I'm trying to fight against the white supremacist system. Tariq, you always speak about these things, but the thing about white supremacy, and you always talk about the suspected white supremacists, then shouldn't Vlad fit that criteria? Shouldn't he fall in that category? Then why are you saying, Vlad, my man, why is it that you have no problem handing out a Coon Train Award to another black man in front of a white Jew? Oh, maybe you just feel comfortable doing that because your mother-in-law is a white Jew. So your wife derives from that. Yeah. And not only that, Tariq, you also just kept getting in Tommy's face. Take your Coon Train award, Crispy. I thought you was gonna kill me. I thought you was gonna kill me, Crispy. What a killing. Y'all, you ain't doing nothing. Like, you really wanted the man to lose his composure that much. You really thought that you were that nigga. You thought you were the man at that moment. You thought because you can show out in front of a white Jew and you can show out in front of your Melanoid Nation audience who cheers you on because they're the majority of them are a bunch of stupid intellectually lazy motherfuckers, that you took a W. Nah, you and Tommy took an L. I'll tell you that shit right now. But let me go back to why. I mean, Tariq, if you really felt that adamant, that vigorous about coming at Tommy and the fact that you didn't like his presence in LA, you should have just held on to that. Not only should you have just held on to that though, Tariq, aren't you the same one who talks about looking out for suspected white supremacists and checking them? But you don't check Vlad. When you did your interviews with Vlad, and I've seen your interviews with Vlad, you didn't check Vlad. It seemed like you were trying to put him on game, Mr. King Flex, then check his ass. Because I would have thought that Vlad would have fit that criteria. He epitomized that to the T, being a suspected white supremacist by your own definition and logic of what a suspected white supremacist would be. Look, Vlad, when you think about him, you think about the content he has embedded within his channel. Vlad has a bunch of dysfunction and fuckery. This is the same man who goes around having video vixen girls, and he does his own little simpish things. I mean, even when he had that interview with you, you never questioned these things, huh, Tariq? Because I thought you were a master debater. I mean, right? You were so much of a master debater that we saw how that thing with you and Tucker Carlson, we saw how that shit went. I mean, Tariq, you are not the brightest bulb in the room, brother. That is abundantly clear. And no matter how you rationalize it, Tariq, you can say that you were just doing this for your own personal clout, but you're doing this at the expense of being in the premise of a suspected white supremacist and not even challenging that authority. It's one thing to be in the presence and be in an interview and a discussion. It's another thing to not challenge that authority and go against that grain. Well, maybe you don't like going against Jews though, because you know your wife is of that. It's from it. And so, as your mother-in-law, so perhaps that's why. Now you, Tommy, let me tell you where you fucked up at. You see, Tommy, when you were putting that caption on Instagram and I saw it, you know, I found to be interesting the fact that Tariq just came from Vlad. The fact that Tariq and Vlad live in California. And the fact that you announced this on social media. So in your mind, you should have been able to infer that, you know, I might have to deal with the prospect of dealing with the lip smacking Mac. And he might try to come at me with that bullshit. And I'm not trying to deal with that. This is what you should have said to yourself. But you didn't though. So in a way, it's like you were not only were you being careless, you let this guy get under your skin. You let him get under your skin so much that you made approximately a 9-minute video speaking about it and speaking about how much of a punk he was. But, you know, people are going to be able to argue that he punked you in the look that you had in your eye and just the way that you responded. Because guess what? You shouldn't have responded like that. I mean, look, I know that it couldn't be helped that Tariq came there. That was beyond your control. But what came out of your mouth and how you responded emotionally, that was. And if you felt, another thing, Tommy, let's go back, let's go to your own, because you said in that video when you were talking about Tariq, how much of a walking contradiction he tends to be, which is very true. But let me say something about you now, brother. You see, Tommy, when we all know that Tariq is a walking, talking contradiction. He talks Melanoid Nation, and yet he simultaneously has a crispy show. He doesn't like coons. He has a Coon Train Award, which also has white people within that audience. Like, we know Tariq is full of shit. But here's the part where I have to question you and your own personal contradictions. Tommy, weren't you the same one when you ethered Rosie O'Donnell? Correct me if I'm wrong. When you ethered Rosie O'Donnell, you said, this is why I'm never gonna make mainstream. I'm never gonna make mainstream because I don't do that ass kissing. You said you didn't do any ass kissing, and you said that you're not gonna go along to get along, things of that nature, right? And yet, you showed up to a Vlad interview. Because I know you know about Vlad TV. And Vlad has his channel epitomizes a lot of elements of that black dysfunction that you talk about within your own content. This is the same man who has had 21 Savage, 22 Savage, these drill rappers, and these real niggas, and these same products of single mothers and these same dudes who promote all that niggly bear fuckery that you stand against. But you're sitting down with the same man who does this. I mean, Tommy, you're the same one who went and confront Jews. You've had interviews with David Dukes, for Pete's sake. You're the same individual who went on and made videos talking about Jewish people when you made that review on Straight Outta Compton. And yet, knowing all this, you still decided to have a sit down with Vlad. And I'm not sure if you challenged Vlad or not. I don't know how you conducted yourself within the interview, and I don't know what transpired yet, but just based off of what I've seen, that's what it was. I mean, Tommy, what do you think? You think that you're that much better than Tariq because you weren't the one to start it? But look at how you reacted to it though, and then you went out your way to make a video because, you know, Tommy, you tend to market yourself in that manner. You wanted to give yourself an excuse and a reason to say, you know what, this the lip smacking Mac, y'all. This is the man y'all praise. But Tommy, both of y'all go out of each other's way to talk about one another. I mean, Tommy, you, as much as you two keep up with each other's lives, you should have known, in the back of your mind, you should have been able to be like, I'm gonna have to deal with the prospect of dealing with this lip smacking Mac because I know he just got through getting interviewed by Vlad. But you got too comfortable. I mean, you go on Instagram saying, I wonder if the lip smacking Mac knows I'm in Cali and all this stuff. So in a way, it's like you're poking that bear, brother. And it's funny that I'm even saying that because even you used that analogy of poking a bear. And what happens when you poke a bear? You can't say if it will or won't attack you. So I'm not gonna make it seem like you're completely innocent, Tommy. That's all I'm saying. Clearly Tariq was acting petulant. Clearly Tariq is a walking contradiction, getting in front and showing out in front of his white Jew newfound buddy, Vlad. Clearly we know that. But Tommy, you can't sit here and act like you don't bring certain things upon yourself. I mean, look, when it comes to YouTube, y'all like the Bloods and the Crips, the Israelis, the Palestinians, the Uchiha clan, and the Senju clan in Naruto. Y'all just cannot and will not ever have peace with one another. And the funny thing is, one thing I've learned is there are 3 things in this world that can cause dissension amongst black men: black women, white people, and Jews. Hook, line, and sinker. The one who got the W in this was DJ Vlad, his motherfucking self. Not you, Tariq, because you came up to Tommy and said, "Hannah, take this crispy, take this crispy." This is what bitch ass niggas do though. You ain't gonna do nothing. You say you gonna kill me. This is what bitch ass niggas do. Why would he do something to you as he's conducting an interview, Tariq? And you, Tommy, when you said you called Tariq a punk and all that, but if you really felt like he was a punk, you should have said that to, you should have emphasized that to his face. And you should have let it be known that, or you should have let it be known rather, after the fact that you're being interviewed by Vlad. You gotta learn how to move in silence, Tommy. That's the thing with you. You like to announce things too much. You like to bring and garner negative attention amongst yourself. But Tommy, you understand better than anybody that any publicity is good. Which is why the things happen the way they happen. Which is why when you had to deal with that circumstance by getting your car ran over by that black broad, and that shit got viral and went on World Star, and people were clowning you for it. The world was clowning you for it. And then you only validated those people's confirmation, whatever confirmation bias and selective morality that they wanted to slide towards. What you did, you pretty much perpetuated that notion. So Tommy, you're not gonna act completely innocent. And still, man, just for a side note, I'm still waiting on that one-on-one with you, Tommy. I'm still waiting on it, brother. I sent you an email almost 3 months ago, and then I sent you another one 2 months ago. And within the comment section, when you were having that one-on-one with the brother Roger, who looked and sounded like Pharrell, a darker version of Pharrell. So but besides all that, hook, line, and sinker, Vlad got clout by having 2 people instigating with one another. And you know, the unfortunate part is it had to be 2 black men. One who goes around yammering about and imputing things on white supremacy. The other one putting too much emphasis, or not too, like putting an immense amount of emphasis on black women. But both of them not realizing that there's a multitude of things, of problems. So we could point the finger on these black women, Tommy, even though these women only have as much power as a man allows them to have. In this case, what was it? It was this white daddy-ass government, and it was us men, especially black men, who've given black women this clout, who've given them this insane amount of power that it's hard to even measure up to. And as for white supremacy, Tariq, I mean, white people are only in the position they're in is mainly because of black approval and lack of foresight on our end as black people. That's why everything transpired the way it did, and we didn't have enough of a strong unification of one another, which is why it was easy to infiltrate black people and hand them over during the transatlantic slave trade. But, you know, that's one thing, man. One thing about me that separates me from the rest of y'all niggas at the black sector is I don't like to look at just one angle of things. Because eventually, if you just focus too much on one thing, you will, by default, have a blind spot. And you know what the blind spot was in this case? It was DJ Vlad. So, I think that's all I'm gonna say now. And that's what it's gonna be. Peace out.